Hi, my name is Emma and I'm a registered dietitian. Today we're going to be talking about reading some nutrition facts labels on your favorite foods and why they're so important to help us make some informed decisions about whether they are perfect for our diet or not. So what I would like to start off with talking about is the serving size and how many servings there are per container. Now the serving size is really important because that's going to tell us all of the information and how much of that food it applies to. So if we kind of take an example of Cheerios, for example. I don't have the box in front of me, as you can see, but cereals are generally 1 cup per serving size. And so what that means is that is the amount of cereal that all of the information on that food label applies to. It's important to note that a serving size is not the recommended amount for you to be eating. How much you should be eating is really dependent on a lot of other factors, but we'll get into that in a little bit. It is important, however, to be aware of the serving size so we can calculate how many calories we're intaking, how much sugar is in our food that we're eating or drinking, and also fat content and protein content, as well as some other things about vitamins and minerals as well. The next thing we want to be paying attention to is the calorie count. Calories are especially important because it's a great situation of balance in order for us to maintain our weight, to gain weight, or to lose weight. So if we want to maintain our body weight, especially a healthy body weight, we have to make sure that the amount of calories we're eating or drinking matches with the amount of calories that we're using to keep our body fueled for the whole day. And so if we think about calories, remember that it applies to 1 serving size. In our earlier example, when we talked about Cheerios, 1 cup is 1 serving of Cheerios. But if you were to eat 2 cups, that would be 2 servings. So if each serving of Cheerios had 150 calories, how many calories would you have consumed if you ate 2 cups? That's right, 300 calories. And so, you see, that is why it's so important for us to pay attention not only to the serving size, but also to the calories. You can get a general estimate of how many calories you need to keep your body fueled the way it needs to be, as well as maintain a healthy weight by using an online calculator. Or you can also speak with a dietitian for a more personalized nutrition plan. And if you continue to move down on the nutrition facts label, you'll see a list of nutrients that we also want to pay attention to because they have some great impacts on our health. Some of the nutrients that we want to limit from our diet or reduce the amount of our intake include saturated fats, sodium, and sugar, particularly added sugar. All of these have been linked to negative health effects, and Americans on average consume too much of these in our diets. So when we're talking about saturated fats and sodium, these have been linked to unhealthy hearts or things such as cardiovascular disease such as heart attacks, strokes, high blood pressure. When we're talking about added sugars, it's especially important to reduce our intake of those because having too much added sugars in our diet can make it difficult for us to stay within our calorie limit. Now, we do want to make sure that we are understanding this is added sugars, such as those that are added to the food during the processing of it, and not natural sugars that are coming from milk or fruits. Now, we've talked about some nutrients that we want to reduce our intake of, but there are also some of those that we want to increase our intake of because as Americans, we typically get not enough of these nutrients. Now, these are going to include your dietary fiber, calcium, vitamin D, potassium, and iron. Getting adequate amounts of dietary fiber is especially important because it has been shown to reduce our blood glucose levels, keep our blood sugar levels stable, keep everything moving smoothly, if you know what I mean, as well as making sure that we stay satiated between meals. Getting enough calcium, vitamin D, and potassium are also especially important because it can make sure that we're keeping our bones healthy as well as reducing our risks of high blood pressure. And now you can see you know a lot about how to read a nutrition facts label, but there's just one more thing we need to talk about, and those are the percentage numbers that you can see on the right side of the labels. We don't need to worry too much about those at this time, but what I do want to let you know is that they give a good representation of whether a certain food is high in a nutrient or low in a nutrient. And so if you were to take a look at that label, it is based on a 2,000 calorie typical diet for about a 180-pound American male. However, don't need to worry too much about those numbers specifically. What you do want to make sure is those things that we talked about reducing our intakes of, we want to keep that under 20%, because if a certain food has more than 20% daily value percentage of a certain nutrient, it's a good source of it or a bad source, however you're looking at the nutrient. Or if it has less than 5%, it means that this food is a poor source of a certain nutrient. And so you see, you have learned a lot about how to read a nutrition facts label, and all of this knowledge is going to help you, especially when you're shopping in a grocery store and you're in those middle aisles where you're picking out the food that have those labels on them, and they can help you make some informed decisions on whether a certain food is going to fit within your diet. And remember, everyone is different, so if you need some help picking out certain foods for you, make sure to speak with a registered dietitian and or your physician.